The following is a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. Hollywood Redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is Black Hollywood Live, the Black Tea Party, featuring weekly discussions on political news and current affairs. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood Redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host of Black Hollywood Live, the Black Tea Party.
There it is. Nice.
What is the purpose of this song?
It's a great song. Change it. Do you want to change it?
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
City Blues.
It's our nice way to
It reminds me of Four Brothers.
That's hilarious, and I love that movie. But
It's a Marvin Gaye all over that movie.
Well, yeah, he did the whole soundtrack.
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just a nice way to soothe into the crazy topics we're about to talk about, as we usually do. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us here at Black Tea Party. We are ready to jump into this week's topic. I'm your host, Stacey Ike. Tweet me live during the show at OneTakeStace. I have my phone and my computer, so I can check it on all social media. And introduce yourselves, guys.
Hi, Michael Timon. You can catch me at however it's spelled on your screen, MIHKEL. I hate that I have to spell it every time. TEMANT at Michael Timon on Twitter.
Nice.
Good luck.
That's cool.
Godspeed.
What's up? I'm Anthony Martin. You can follow me at Black Fist Activist on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, everything. There we go.
Everything.
Pretty much simple.
And we have Mr. Don Nash in the building. What's up? Via Skype. How are we?
I'm good. I'm hearing Anthony talk about this what? Black this what?
Black Fist Activist, man. That's been it for a minute.
I like that. Well, hey, I'm down with it. I got my fists.
What's your Twitter and Instagram so we can tweet you during the show, Don?
My Twitter, Instagram. Twitter is Don's Daily Dose, and Instagram is Mr. Don Nash. And just hit me up. Let's talk about it.
Love it. Love
Let's
it.
do
Love
it.
it. So I'm glad to be here with you guys. This week was, I feel like it's less stressful than other weeks. I didn't even.
I don't know if it's less stressful.
Is
It's
that
just,
true?
again, it's just, well, people did die, so I mean, I couldn't say
Yes,
that, but
yes.
America.
I don't know. It's just get tired every week.
It's
man.
a little tiring. You're not
It's
really
like,
sure.
oh yeah, so about this, they died and this person got killed, and new high in murder rate, and it's just crazy.
It's a lot. It's a lot
Violence
to keep
is up
up.
21% in Los Angeles, guys. That's a new thing.
That's
crazy.
not what I want to start with. No, I'm kidding. Because I don't know how to process all this information anymore. Let's start with the fact that the Confederate flag in South Carolina is gone all the way down. So that was cool. What's everybody's thoughts, concerns? The governor. And
that was trash, by the way. That
No, go
interview
ahead.
she
What
did with Don Lemon.
Uh-huh.
God, it was so.
You didn't believe her.
No, I didn't believe her.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't believe her from the start. Like, when she was talking about, I think I said it on the show, like,
Yeah.
she's so fake. Like, she just comes off just like, oh, I want to do this and I want to help. And, now she's talking about, oh, I want to make race something that I come to the kids with and talk about and all that. But before this, you didn't give two F's about race or black people.
But that's what happens when you have a certain leadership during a certain time. They have to go with the time. So if what's happening in the time is gay marriage, they're like, you know what, I'm about that, and I have to, because they have to keep their votes, they have to keep their money, they have to keep their donations. You know what I mean? Like
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they just kind of go with the flow. Nobody's genuine. Like that's why I talk so bad about like government officials and politicians, because they're so trash. Like they're so
trash.
None of them are genuine. Like
But that's kind of their job.
yeah.
To be fair, and I think Nikki Haley is a bad example because she is a minority who pretends to be white, just like Bobby Jindal, who actually got his, I can't mention it enough, he got his governor portrait painted so he looks like a white guy. Like, they hate the fact they're minorities. But I think part of a politician's
you
job
think so? You can
is to-
speak like that about her?
I mean,
Have you heard what she said?
She
I
literally
guess
has
like
not
not
brought
her,
up-
but like everyone.
She literally has not brought up like the issue about her being like a minority.
yes.
So, like I just heard about it
Right.
like on the interview she had with Don Lemon. I'm just like, oh really?
She's
Okay.
like, as a minority, I stand.
Yeah.
I said,
bring it up. My dad wore a turban when I was younger, and it was hard going. I'm like,
I ate the curry.
I ate the curry.
Curry's delicious.
John, any thoughts on that?
You know, I'm sitting up here laughing at you guys. But I'm actually back on the whole idea about that Anthony brought up about just not really liking politicians. And I don't really like many of them either.
Yeah.
But one thing I have to say has been a silver lining to this whole process is to see the evolution. And I'll even snap back to the whole, you know, the Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage. If you look back even 10 years ago, you had people that were against it that now have moved.
Right.
And so although I agree that they sometimes lack authenticity and integrity and consistency at the same time, I think I'm happy to see some of the evolution as well. That you don't have to be a stick in the mud or stick in the concrete and always believe what you've always believed or always stand for what you always stood for.
Yeah, I think
I can get with that.
I definitely think it's a good thing when they can admit their faults and be like, you know, I was opposed to this, but right now, you know, I see the issues. That's cool. And I understand that you need politicians in some ways because they help drive the vote of the states and all that.
Right.
But I just think how they go about it is really, really terrible. Like the whole thing with the Confederate flag, like they base so much emphasis on this dumb flag being removed. Like I said before, it does really not matter if this flag is gone or not.
And that's the thing, that was my take on it. You know, when you sent it to us in topics and I kind of looked at the information, I was like, you know what am I even going to say about this? Like, yay, it's down. Not that that's not a good thing, but if you saw a couple weeks ago, CNN did a story. They interviewed a few people. I'm not sure what city they were in, but they were like, what does the Confederate flag mean to you? What does it mean to you? And several people were like, I don't notice it in my life. I don't care. Black, white, yellow, green. Yeah. Of course, they're like, it's hurtful, but they're like, but I'm still going to live my life depending on like what I believe in. You know what I mean?
That's everybody.
You know, but I think that on the level, for the demographic of people who really know what that flag stands for, even though they denied that it stood for what we know that it stood for.
Right.
I think it's good that the flag is down now because it's no longer a slap in the face. Right. It was in fact a slap in the face to have that flag hanging at full mast, right?
Yeah.
And then have the American flag at half mast after the 9 were killed in South Carolina.
Right.
So Don, let me ask you, because I posed this question to them on one of our earlier shows about there was a lot of stuff that flag represents, a Confederate flag. But what about all the stuff that went down while the American flag was raised high?
Right.
Like, what about the past 100 years with the American flag, the civil rights movement?
That's a
like
rich
all
question.
That stuff.
It's a very rich question, and I think that should be unpacked. But where does our discussion begin? You know, I mean, America's got a lot to deal with in terms of history, but I don't want to miss. See, because I'm one of those people that have been for unity and peace and oneness. And so when I see even a little movement like this, I don't want to criticize the process so that I miss the opportunity to see what I think we saw in South Carolina with, you know, black and whites coming together and standing for a cause. I kind of like want to bask in that and then allow the conversations to evolve and to bring forth further change.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I feel you. I think we're on the same page, but at different spectrums, because like how I feel about it is like, I love the fact that people come together for a cause and they can do things like that.
But it's too late. That's my opinion.
Well, not even that it's too late, that it's just like they're being a little ignorant to the fact. Like they one thing happens, they're happy about it, and they keep going with that, and they have this, now, you know, there's a little bit more peace, but there's not, though. Like I don't see it. I see the moment. I want to take it in, love it, but at the same time, it's like y'all aren't really seeing the big picture. You know what they're doing with this whole like flag, like they're covering your eyes with it. That's basically what's happening right now.
You're right. You're right. But Anthony, do you think that? How do I say this? Do you think that we are perpetuating the same spirit of animosity and tension as opposed to beginning to release the pressure valve? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm more for...
Do you mean right now as a panel, like in terms of our conversation, are we...
No, just in terms of the broader conversation.
Okay.
Because I hear Anthony and I agree with him. I think the points are very, very valid. But at some point, I don't want to be right more than I want to be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. I see. Okay.
I don't want to have the most profound point more than I want to be happy and start to realize some of the unity and oneness that we all say we want when there's a crisis.
Even if it comes out of something as ridiculous and ignorant and harsh, or I don't know, as this. I see what you're saying. What do you?
No, go ahead. I don't agree. I mean, I think that that's just the fall in the whole terms of ignorance is bliss. Like, and I don't agree with that statement. Like, I feel like we can take these little battles and take them one for the team. Like, yeah, we got it, but we still can't, because what happens is, and like with the flag and the other issues that have been going on these past couple of years, is things like this happen. And they create a small solution, a little Band-Aid, and we're like, okay,
that's how big progress gets made.
Let's walk away.
That's how I would say big progress gets made, because you look at the gay marriage issue. We're talking about this huge victory that happened. This is 30 years in the making of little victories, little states that would allow gay marriage, or at least civil unions. So we can't look at, I think it's hard to look at a small thing and be like, that's worthless. You have to look at it in the grand picture of things. Like the fact so many white people, including, but I want to get her name right, because even though she's a Republican, she was...
Representative Jenny Horn.
Jenny Horn, thank you.
That's my chick.
That's who I was going to, I couldn't
I'm
remember
not going to
her first
lie,
name.
I had to shout her out. I was really feeling her.
Yeah.
Were you guys not feeling it?
No, well,
I
I
know what
mean,
you're talking about.
she's Jefferson Davis's great-great-granddaughter.
Yes, and she was at the...
Take it down.
Yeah, she was very emotional at the... yes,
I saw
she
it.
was like, if we don't do this on Friday, then we are not... You are part of the problem.
And she's a Republican.
Yeah, and I was very... The thing is, like, and that's why politics sometimes gets on my last nerves, Republican or not. Like, I tried not to see her like, oh, I can't believe this Republican supports black... No, like, it's about people.
But look who was supporting the Confederate flag.
I understand.
It was Republican.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that as like
a...
I'm saying it as a...
That's exciting.
Almost every Democrat across the board was take down that flag. And the only resistance you saw was from the Republicans.
Yeah.
So when you get hurt, Strom Thurmond's his grandson, or no, sorry, son, he also, Strom Thurmond was part of the KKK. He was a Dixiecrat.
Okay.
Now his son is a Republican, but he was like, take down that flag. And his son's way, I mean, that's the progress we see. The problem with progress is it's super
slow.
Super slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we keep fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we keep.
He's like, nah.
We keep, and no pun intended, Anthony, we keep pumping our fist for the thing that we really want to make sure everybody understands. And I get it. It's just that I feel like we fight so much. I've been relieved to see that this happened in South Carolina, and everyone seemed, well, I won't say everyone because that's too strong of a word here, but there was so much unity, so much, interracial support, if that makes sense. Is somebody calling me?
Yeah, I think so. Guys, NASCAR supported. Let's look at that giant victory. A bunch of really ignorant race car fans were like, take down the flag. That's
Can you see something like that and think like, it can't be all good? Like maybe they have another scheming idea?
No, I mean...
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
I think, like I said, you're right. I do agree that, small victories can lead to a big victory. But I don't think this is one of those victories. I really don't. Like, I mean, I think of little, like, small victories and... like that happened, like as far as like the civil rights movement, things going on and amendments being made and laws being passed, and taking a flag down, like.
But Anthony, I'm tracking with you. I just think that for me, and this is just for me as an individual, when I saw that flag there, it was a slap in the face. It was, we know what this flag stands for. This kid was raised on our soil, right?
Right.
And now we're gonna let it wave.
Yeah.
We're going to let it wave in the middle of this massacre in your face. And when you ask us, we won't even do the decent thing, which is what I thought she was crying for. How is it that we don't have the heart?
To
make space to have compassion and consideration for the families and the people that have been lost here. There's no heart. And I think that's more revelatory for the people of South Carolina or the people that have this worldview, that's still embedded in racism and bigotry. But I don't know. I kind of want to have a kumbaya moment.
What I can agree with is that I am so happy that certain, like, the people that have been affected by the Charleston shooting, like, they're a little bit more. If that helps them out, I'm a little bit okay with it. I still don't agree with it, but I will be okay that they're feeling better about it. Like, if it helps them in any way, if it cools them down, then. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's all right.
I get it.
Well, I think that was the slap in the face, though, was the Confederate flag was full mast and
Yeah.
the American flag is half. And to bring back to the American flag versus the Confederate flag, yeah, terrible things have happened almost under every country.
And
under
every flag, yeah.
But what does the flag actually stand for versus... Now, the Confederate flag literally stood for, we're standing to keep our slaves and fight against the Union,
Right.
versus the American flag, even though slavery was still started with the country.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, at least the Confederate flag, like, you knew that standard for slavery. The problem is the American flag stands for freedom and justice. It really stands for hypocrisy. And that's what bothers me the most is people are trying to
That's an
deny.
interesting way to look at that.
I look at it as progressivism, though. I think of it as progress. We're going to work toward these ideals.
Don,
We're
do
not
you not
going to work
agree?
for.
Don,
We're not.
you
It's
started
not
laughing.
that the
I'm just
American
laughing
flag
that
means
Michael
everything
chose
is
the word
justice and everything is free. It's we're going to fight for these
I
ideals.
really get it, but I think that, I mean, you know, the American flag has a lot of blood on it.
So does every flag.
Well, I
think-
get that.
Pick a country. I'll tell you what they did.
No,
Just name one.
I'm not saying I know every country has their problems. I think my issue, because I live here, knowing that the people that will stand up for the American flag and will be, you know, start, you know, reciting the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, like, it's not real. Like, a lot of those
That's
things
not
I
real
hear.
patriotism either.
I mean,
I'll say it. Patriotism is not just blindly saluting a flag. It's not just rambling the Constitution. It's actually standing, fighting for what you believe, and trying to make your country a better. That's why I can't stand when someone goes, "Well, if you don't like it, get out." No, F you. We got a First Amendment. I get to say my piece.
Yeah.
I get to push for my country to be the way I want. I'm not just gonna leave because you think. By the way, 80% of the country wants background checks. So why don't you get out of the country if you don't want background checks for your guns? So you can't just sit there, I think, and go, well, we need to get rid of everything. I think you're right. I don't think, and that's why, like, some people were even saying, no, don't put the Confederate flag in a museum. I'm like, no, that's exactly where it should go.
Yeah,
and
it's
it should
still
go
part of
next
history,
to.
right?
Yeah.
And like what Texas, I mean, not to segue, but Texas is trying to get rid of all that stuff. You
Yeah.
can't just forget it either. That's the
Well,
other
yeah, but
side.
you can put it in the museum and not tell the truth about it.
No, I agree.
Just like you can put it
that's
in the
not what
history
I'm
books
saying.
and do the same
They were
thing.
saying to just
Right.
not do it.
They do, but I think that becomes the next argument, or I won't say argument, but a conversation. That if you're going to put it in a museum, make sure that you tell the truth about the flag. Now,
What it
obviously,
means, yeah.
we've got different schools of thoughts on what that flag represents.
Agreed.
And that kind of falls into Texas. I feel like I'm sorry.
I don't
Hey,
think you're ever gonna let me
Texas.
live on this
Sorry
panel.
about the face.
You know, y'all know as soon as Texas come up, I'm quick to move on. So I'm gonna do that now. I really want to talk. I want to hear you guys' opinion on this week in Baltimore, and honestly, maybe clasp everything together in terms of rates in Chicago. It's really sad because since we've been on this panel, crazy stuff has happened. But since May specifically, when, you know, things with Freddie Gray elevated, Eric Gardner was a little bit before that, Scott Walter was a little bit after that. So you have all these elevated events of violence, and you see how it's playing out in different states. And Chicago, it's weird because when we talked about that, I didn't get as sad, and that made me sad because Chicago's I'm very used to seeing those numbers.
Yeah.
In a state like that, you know what I mean? And
We're numb to it.
Yeah, and that was a problem. Like a lot of these other places, I was like, wow, South Carolina. It's like I've never heard of them before this, but Chicago was extremely numbing, and that was a problem.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I think it was. I mean, I'm from the Midwest, so I hear about Chicago, and I'm from St. Louis, so
Yeah.
you know, I hear all those murder rates and all the numbers all the time, and it's kind of like, yeah, what else is new? I mean, it is. We really are numb to it, but
Yeah.
it's super
it's
sad
not
how
something we
stuff's going.
can't. Yeah, we can't dismiss it. So do you want to give us a little bit about the numbers that have changed?
Well, I was talking about, so in Chicago, 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
America!
We're back.
Let's talk about
Right.
it. So
anyway.
on the 4th of July
We
weekend.
use guns on 4th of July.
Right. I think within 84 hours of the 4th of July weekend in Chicago, there were 42 shootings. 42 shootings. Out of those 42 shootings, at the current 16 deaths.
16 deaths.
So 16 deaths by these shootings, and that's just like a phenomenal number. But what's even crazier about it is those numbers are actually down from last year, the same time last year in Chicago.
Wasn't it over
We
50
can't call
last
that
year?
progressive.
Yeah.
We can't call that improvement, right?
Like,
Are we allowed to?
I mean, it is improvement, but man,
it's well, okay, and with Chicago, people like to point that out as like, look, they have strict gun laws. Why isn't it working? Because within an hour, you're outside of Chicago, or you're in Wisconsin, Indiana, where they have some of the most lax gun laws in the country, which is why we need this national debate of why we need gun control all throughout the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. Go ahead, Don.
But you know what? It's interesting, and through some of Anthony's commentary earlier, and it's making me back up and kind of take a panoramic view of the fabric of American culture. Yeah. And I think hatred is so woven within the fabric of the American culture that we just see it on so many different levels, whether or not it's self-hatred or hatred to another individual, gender, or race. I think that this is all kind of the fruit of that. And does that make sense?
No, and I agree. And that's what I kind of took from Chicago and the Baltimore, like the rise in crime or rise in murders, is that, we can talk about gun control because, yes, that is a big issue. But at the same time, this isn't it's not stemming from gun control.
It's stemming from poverty.
It's systematic differences, poverty, unemployment, poverty, crime. Like like it happens because of that and because of these mostly black communities like that are in Chicago and Baltimore, like because they have these systematic differences than the rest of their cities, they're having these breakouts in crime. I mean, and it's
what if poverty and unemployment, things of that nature, what if they're equally symptomatic to gun violence?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I agree.
Gun violence, suicide,
they are.
Violent domestic violence, all across the board crime.
They are, definitely, and it's very telling in a city like Chicago.
And what I'm saying is that in these cities and these parts of the cities is why this is like becoming like it's inflating is because I feel like the cities kind of turn their back on those parts of the city. And there's no funding going in.
Yes.
There's no rebuilding of the cities or the schools or the programs set in place that were earlier that got shut down. These buildings that have been abandoned, nobody's like breaking them down and building something up. They're leaving them for trap houses. Like this stuff's crazy, and it's only perpetuating the motion of these crimes and these issues that are going on.
Absolutely.
But what is the issue? What is the fountainhead issue? Because I think that what we oftentimes do is we talk about all the symptoms and we run to try and fix or medicate the symptom, but never deal with what the real issue is. We've become numb to responding to these type of numbers because this is not the first time we've heard these kind of numbers.
Well, it was probably the best piece of radio I've ever heard. It was a two-parter on This American Life about Harper High School. And it was a place in Chicago. They went over there for 6 months and met the students. And this is in the middle of Chicago. And that year they had 400-something shootings in Chicago. And so at the end of the episode, they listed all the students who died while that piece was being reported.
That's crazy.
And it was over, I want to say it was 16 to 20. And that's just in that high school. And so and it's poverty. It's poverty, non-education, no opportunity. There's no opportunity left. We live in an oligarchy.
But it's got to be.
But why is there poverty?
There's poverty because the rich keep taking money. We keep giving them tax cuts. We keep giving corporations tax cuts. Meanwhile, we're finding the crap out of people who can't afford bail. That's one of the best things that happened this week was in Oregon they got rid of bail for petty crimes, which is killing poor people.
Yeah.
It's literally killing them financially, which turns them back to crime because when you have no resources, you have nothing else to lose, you turn to crime because guess what? My kid needs food on the table. And I'm going to break some laws because my kid needs food. They found most gun violence in crimes are due to someone robbing a house. It's not this high crime. When we think of crime, we think of these giant organizations where James Bond is coming in and that's where the gun violence is. No, it's a guy breaking into another person's house because he can't afford things for his kid. The guy comes downstairs, he gets scared, he has a gun for protection, and he kills that guy. That's most of the time.
I mean, and even
but Michael, if you let me be the devil's advocate, my question then becomes: are we now giving an excuse for the violence?
No.
That's not an excuse.
I don't think it's an excuse, but I think, because I was just about to ask, can you give me a rundown of what that looks like? And I think you kind of just did, because to say it's poverty, it's this, it's that, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, how do you, and you're right, not the word excuse, but how do you...
When people are desperate, they do desperate things, and that's most crime.
And I think these cities and like these governments and these capitals have put these people in these back in the corner, and you don't have anything else to do. Like, I think of like friends I grew up with and people I know younger, like, who didn't have, you know, the same things that I had growing up, and you have a different mindset. You don't think like, you know, I'm gonna make it through college, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna work myself up. You think, I gotta make something happen now. What can I do? And but
let me ask this question.
Yeah.
In Baltimore,
right.
Do we know how much money has been poured into Baltimore?
Okay, that's an interesting point.
Right, I read an article in the New York Times about 2 or 3 months ago, when at the height of everything, and it talked about how much money had been poured into Baltimore to try to eradicate some of these problems. And I'm not. This is not my opinion. It's just an exploratory conversation.
Where does the money go?
My point being, are we looking at the right issues? Are we looking at symptoms? Because we keep talking about poverty, and sometimes poverty is a mindset. It's not the economic disposition, while there are economic dynamics.
True.
Okay.
And I think
I've seen millions and even billions of dollars be thrown into an inner city situation, but just throwing money to provide books doesn't necessarily eradicate the twisted economic
Exactly.
issue.
They have
economic issue, but you know what I'm saying? Issue of poverty.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, throwing money at those towns and those cities is not going to help the issue. They have to stay in for the long run. And I think that's where these people that are throwing this money in
have a disconnect.
They're like, they have a disconnect. They think, you know what? Let's give this city this much money, and they walk away. Yeah. You have to teach people how to progress.
We have to embrace that financial resource is not the key to fixing the choice to commit a violent crime in order to survive.
It costs $9,000 to fund a kid for 1 year of school, right? It costs $9,000 currently. It costs $60,000 if that kid ends up in jail for 1 year. Now, when you talk about money, I'm not talking. You're right, you know, because like the Red Cross blew $500 million, built 6 houses in Haiti. Like, that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's way, and most of it went to executive salaries. Of course, because there's no such thing as real charity anymore. Anyway, there isn't. There just isn't. It's a bunch of people making $500,000 each. Anyway, so you can't just throw it. But there's things we can look at, like, these kids aren't getting the same opportunities as rich white kids. They're just not. Like that one girl in Texas who wanted to be like she's pleading the racist because like the affirmative action thing, and turns out she has a 2.6 GPA. Go to community college, idiot, moron. Like, come on, you don't deserve to go to a college with a 2.6.
But here's what I'm saying, and I want to draw like an interesting parallel here, and you guys just tell me if you think I'm completely off. I'm okay with being off because I'm processing it just like everybody else.
I'm doing good as well.
But if let's just take an average, a single parent household,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
And if I decide, I feel like I'm sounding a little bit like Mr. Cosby, but if I decide to take my money and buy my kid shoes, electronic games, and have all the hot wires and the nice cars, but not invest in education.
But that's such a small... See, that's the thing, though. People look at poor people, and they see what they have, and they go, oh, they're not that poor. They have an iPhone. Maybe, like, I know a friend who gets an iPhone every 2 years because his dad upgrades, so his dad gives him the old iPhone. It's not that this guy has money and he's buying new iPhones.
Upgrade his academics. Upgrade his academics.
No, I understand.
Upgrade his cell phone.
We're talking about a situation where, like, single-parent households are notorious for having more kids end up in prison than any other household. You know why? Because in single-parent households, those parents can't afford daycare. Those kids are watching themselves. Yes. They're not being watched. They're not being educated, and the parents don't have the resources to do it.
Kids have been around for generations, and I don't want to make excuses for us because I think we have to, we have to reach a higher bar. And I'm really concerned because I've looked and I've seen money being thrown for this, that, or the other, but not necessarily for the thing that will empower, that will give one access on how to be sustainable and how to rise up from the by their own bootstraps and make something out of nothing. We come from generations of people who taught us how to do that.
Okay, can I just say, and I hope Anthony don't forget what you're going to say. No, well, go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
Okay. So I basically was going to say I think I completely agree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is that no, it doesn't matter where they're throwing the money. I don't think that's the issue. The issue is the people that are in it for the long haul? Like, where are the people that are teaching these families how to, make it out of these holes with what they have, with what they're giving them?
You don't have social workers to do that.
And that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. And I think that's the kink in the chain, and that's where the problem is. We got the money, we got the people that want to help themselves, but then they don't know, and we need that middle person to do something about it.
I think to go with that two thing. One, the middle person is right here, right here, right here, right there.
That sounds so great.
I'm being very, because we've done that a lot on the show where we've done a lot on the show where we talk about the people that we wish and hope to be there. And I'm not saying, and it's hard to identify as like, that was a cute little joke, and like I want us to be those people, but I understand where we are in our life as I understand how other people are in their life. And it's very hard to say, like, where are those people who are working hard? Like, mostly right now they're on TV shows. They're not real people. And it's very frustrating to look for that person when I'm like, okay, what would that look like if I became that person? Because then I know I'm doing something. You know what I mean? Like that. We've had that argument, and I love to find that person. I've always rooted for whoever that person is, or dreaming for, and looking them up. But if it's two people, I don't know how Martin Luther King did it. I don't know. Because I don't know if it can be one person. I just don't know.
And I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist right now.
Please, and let me just say, let me say a quick second point to the money issue. I do think it matters where they're putting the money, because you're saying it doesn't, and you're saying they're pouring all this money. Where are they pouring it into, though? We haven't asked, where is it going? Who are you giving it to? Are you giving it to a school?
Funding to actually fund any teaching. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are you giving it to like a governor, and you're like, hey, trickle this down? No. Are you giving it to a teacher? Are you giving it to someone in their hand? Like, where is it going?
To the people of these cities, and like, where do you need this money to go?
That's what I'm saying.
They're just building. Oh, we're going to build this new condominium.
I think that you can give money and not know what the objective for the money
Exactly.
is. If the objective is to treat the symptom as opposed to empower the community, the individual or the community, then you're going to misappropriate those funds.
But they always do this, Don. Like, I went down to
say that they did it.
I went to LA City Council for a few things for school, and like they were talking about how great this USC project is. It's going to bring all these shops. Yeah, $9 an hour jobs. It's not going to help anyone in that neighborhood. You talk about how my parents or different generations did it. Well, since the 40s until about 1992, you actually could have a union job out of high school where you're making a middle class income. So even if you were a latchkey kid, that was way more affordable. And $2 an hour in the 70s was worth more than the $9 an hour we get in California today. Meanwhile, prices have gone skyrocketing up, and people have to have multiple jobs. It's a different situation than when it's one of those things that bother me is we always talk about, well, our parents did it. Yeah, our parents had better jobs that got paid more, that got more paid time off. They had strong unions. We don't have that to offer parents anymore.
And I think the saying goes like, you kick them while you're down, and that's basically what's happening with these areas. Is they're already having the issues, and no one's really giving them the opportunities, and they're just making it more difficult, like you said, with taxes and everything else. Yeah. And I just want to touch on this issue before we go about it. But when we're talking about leaders and people that are doing, like, who can be that person to help out those communities, who can guide them in those issues, and why there hasn't been any since Martin Luther King and
there's
Malcolm
been, but
But the reason behind this, and this is my conspiracy theorist plot, but I just believe that the government is making it so we can't have those single messiahs anymore. They don't want that. They don't want a person to stand up and be like, we need to take a stand. We need to do this because, the second those people come in, those people that were once ignorant are going to actually start thinking, and maybe, this guy, he speaks real well, he does this, let's follow him and do this. They don't want that anymore. Did y'all remember Do you remember the civil rights?
I think we did that as a society. I don't think it's as conspiratorial as you think. I think we just did that as a country because we care more about having things, and consumerism took over way more than caring about other people.
But who do you think pushed that stuff into?
Oh, rich people.
But they're not all in the government, though.
No, they're mostly the corporations
that fund the government, that do all the other things.
So there's some kind of like web.
There's a link.
Everyone see this week that for 30 years, Exxon, since 1981 actually, Exxon has been totally covering up global warming and pushing specifically that global warming isn't happen. So these corporations are the most evil. Not one of them goes to jail ever. Not one big. Okay, when I see a guy who's, who might look urban walking down the street, I'm not worried about that guy because that guy's only going to take the money in my wallet. I'm worried about the banker across the street that's going to decimate me because those guys have destroyed families and communities all throughout this country.
But people have ignorance and they don't think about it like that. They're not gonna. They're not.
The black community was most affected by the default mortgages that happened. When we had reverse mortgages the secondary mortgages, and not one banker.
The black community was affected by the nature of the mortgages that they gave them and that they were forced to give them and putting them in loans that they could not afford.
Absolutely, that were completely legal because of corporations who push bullshit legislation.
So to move this into like the next topic, do you guys feel it was the right move to fire Commissioner Anthony W. Watts or B. Watts? Yeah, Anthony W. Batts. Batts. Okay, so unfortunately, I think it's unfortunate a little bit, but I want to hear you guys' topic. The Baltimore Police Commissioner was fired on Wednesday. There was a lot of people posing arguments saying that he was a distraction, he wasn't helping. Crime has risen so much since May, unfortunately, which really pissed me off because I thought that they were getting something together there. I don't know. And then some people say that under his care, a lot of the officers were not coming involved in, violent situations. They were kind of holding back. They weren't doing their jobs. What do you guys think?
I think he was a distraction in the sense that he kind of pissed both sides off. And you got to pick one or the other. He pissed the police off and they weren't backing him. So then they weren't doing anything for the community's help to stop crime. And then he also pissed off the community because they felt that he wasn't helping them enough. And once you do that to both sides, you're kind of like, you have no authority. You're not going to make any moves. Mm-hmm. So I think it is best to remove him, regardless of how we think of him as a person or whatever. It's the best move. I think
he was incompetent more than a bad person. Yeah. I feel he was just incompetent. If you look at the way they kind of bulldoze it. Baltimore, I was early.
I was looking up a little bit of his history beforehand, and I think it was Oakland that he used to work for.
Long Beach.
Long Beach for several years, and there were definitely different statistics that say that while he was in, in that role, violence decreased. And so I wanted to say that he was going to bring that to Baltimore and it was going to be all good.
Just effed up. I mean,
I think he just had because he's only been there since September, 2012.
He messed up really bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point.
I like to look at this and think that there's something happening on a larger level, or a grander scale here. I think it's interesting to note that the man of color is moved out of a civil rights issue kind of atmosphere. I think that's a little bit odd.
Yeah.
I also think the fact that he was removed by someone of color speaks volumes to the intention to just get it right.
I like that. I like that a lot.
There was no pass for him because he's a man of color.
Yeah,
right.
That there's a bar that's about equality. There's a bar that's about accountability. There's a bar as it relates to how we overcome these situations, and color plays nothing in it. And I think all things come together to just make that point, because I think that's the greater point that needs to be made here, that we've got to get away from a place of seeing things by color, seeing things by class, and it doesn't make a difference. So my thing is, whoever's going to get that job done needs to get it done. And unfortunately, this guy with this impeccable track record came here, and at this particular point in time came to this intersection of a social and civic catastrophe and did not manage it effectively. It's just time to move on, brother.
I definitely agree. I mean, when I was reading all this stuff about Baltimore and him getting fired, I honestly didn't once think about color. I didn't come to me as race. I mean, because I was seeing what was going on there. I was talking to people that I know that live in Baltimore, and hearing the testimonies from police, and I'm just like, nobody likes this guy. I mean, he hasn't been doing good. So it's kind of like, it doesn't matter if you're black or white in that instance. If you can't be an authority, then you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem on the East Coast too with the police unions.
But let me.
I mean, I'm saying they have so much. That might be why he was so ineffective in Baltimore. Is that their police unions there are so strong? We always get mad. This is what I found out a few weeks ago. We always get so mad when they just put him on suspension. Why isn't he fired? The union. It's always the union.
But I don't think it's I don't know how to even insert this, but I don't think it's fair that in this time, the police officers are deciding this is the perfect time to hold back because they're not sure
fire
where
them
they
all.
fit in the community.
And that's the point
a problem for me.
That's the point I was going to make. It's like, yes, I get they don't agree with their
with
commissioner.
him,
but the reason crime rose to me, in my opinion, is that there were no police around anymore. After the Freddie Gray incident, the police backed off because they were scared that they would be, looked at different, and then they were like going to be looked through like a finding glass the whole time and trying to see all the wrongs that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Your job is to, it's going to be innately frustrating. It's going to be hard. You got to go along with those things. You can't walk away because you're like, oh, people are going to look at me. They're going to think I'm doing something wrong. Do the right thing.
Right. I wish the guys in the military wish they could just walk out on Afghanistan. Right. No, these guys are shooting at us, guys. I don't know if I can take that.
And seriously, I don't necessarily agree with the military and all the things that are going on. But what I'm saying is just like with the soldiers, people don't agree with the military and how they're handling things, but the soldiers aren't going to walk away because they're like, everybody's looking at us in a bad light. We can't do this anymore. That's ridiculous. They're cowards. All of them are cowards. And the fact that even the fact that some of them went on record to say that exact thing, that they backed off because they felt people were going to look at them crazy, why are they not fired?
Turn in your badge. You are not brave enough to be a police officer.
This is why riots start. This is why crime rises, because people get pissed off when you're talking about
when you, as an
the
authority,
people that are supposed to protect us say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that anymore. Because I don't want to get hurt. It's just my blood. I don't know.
Did you learn anything from Die Hard?
This stuff just drives me. I don't know. This stuff just drives me.
It's interesting.
Well, that's all the more reasons why he's fired, right? Because he doesn't have a team of people who know how to stand in the middle of a crisis.
And that's why I said unfortunately, because to me it's like him being fired doesn't do everything for me to trickle down. You know what I mean? Whoever.
You're right.
It's not enough to fire him. We can get through a couple other people. There are some other people who can do this job better. And
if they fired him and then fired some officers who were incompetent,
they actually
Anthony
have a
just
plan.
Said, that'd be fine. No, I'm okay with if he can't handle it, it's fine. But just firing him and leaving all the officers left makes
foolish.
You're going to get another commissioner that you're just going to fire because these guys can't take orders. How can you be a police officer and not take orders?
Got it. Dang, I want to talk about a couple things, but we just got the wrap up signal. Any last minute topics you guys want to bring up before we wrap up?
Don't make me say it.
I just want to talk about this Texas school book thing. Can we just talk about that real quick?
Yes.
So basically Texas is implementing a new curriculum where they are lessening the severity of slavery that happened during
and Jim Crow laws.
Is it all of Texas though?
Yes,
it's all of Texas. There's 5 million books that are going to be distributed to I want to say 90 schools or something ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is that they even thought that was okay.
They
thought that was cool though.
But the thing is who's the authorizing person before it gets to Texas?
The Texas Education Board, which is a mess. They try to do the same, and it matters. People are wondering why does it matter so much for one state? Texas and California matter a lot when it comes to education. Because when they order textbooks, all the textbook companies curtail their entire curriculum toward Texas and California and then that way they can sell it to everybody else in the country. So if Texas is going to do this, guess what other states? Louisiana, Alabama, the other places that had slavery that don't want to admit it because they don't like the background of it. They're going to buy those textbooks. And that's going to influence a generation of people.
So, what
they try
are we
to do the same crap with evolution.
I'll be surprised by this.
I'm not surprised, but I'm thinking
it's a little appalling though, just because I'm not surprised.
It's appalling, but it's always been, right? Outside of taking an African American studies class in college, I think all of my books were watered down.
Right.
They were all watered down. I think the point is that they're just trying to they're trying
sweep it on the road.
They're ignoring.
They're going down and down and down until it's nothing around. I think the point is what I get bothered by the most about these is when these parents hear this, when these teachers, these people of knowledge hear this stuff. Why are they not going on strike or boycotting these schools or boycotting McGraw-Hill, who's
because unions in
making
Texas
these
are
books?
worthless.
Why is this? Why are people not standing up? It makes me so sad to hear stuff like this.
If we go back to what Stacey challenged us with earlier, I think we are the people that have a voice. Maybe we're writing the books. Maybe we're getting in the race. Maybe we're pontificating whatever that truth is so that the story is always told. Because what I know is that this institutionalized thing we call America will always water it down because they never want to take ownership for what they have perpetuated in times past.
But then to be devil's advocate, even though I understand taking ownership, how much longer I'm trying to figure out if I want to say, like, do black people, African Americans, do people as a country, how long do we want that conversation to perpetuate the way we like see each other?
I don't want it to be perpetuated. I just, on certain things,
it can never not be what I get.
You cannot forget it. Like,
of course.
Like, you can't forget things like that. Like, people say you can forgive, but you can't forget. Like, that's how it has to be. And they're trying to make us forget certain things. They're trying to make generations to come not even know
what the hell happened.
What happened. They're going to become ignorant, and then there's a cycle that's going to start all over again. I just feel like it's just like a bomb waiting to explode how things are happening.
You know what would make me feel good? And this is just about me right now. I took a me pill today.
Okay.
I went to see 12 Years a Slave a couple of years ago when it came out. And when I walked out of the theater, there was a white woman that walked up to myself and some friends, and we were all people of color. And she said, "Oh my, we did some horrible things to you all, didn't we?" And I'm telling you, there was such a moment of relief that there was acknowledgement that what was done was wrong.
Well, and
that's an awkward version of relief. I would have been like, that's a really weird thing to say. No,
she finally saw, like, people don't know.
She saw it. And I think the thing for me is that I've read books that even make the sincere attempt to tell the truth, but never reconcile with this was wrong. So what we bring to the conversation now, when Stacey talks about perpetuating this same conversation, what we bring to it is just the detail. I'm so tired of seeing slave movies. I'm so tired of seeing black folk poor, broke, and lonely. Can somebody just say it was done wrong? We have a worldview of these people of color that is not accurate. We have held them down. We need to now bring them up.
But
whatever.
We also need to acknowledge
that
is like that's the key. But we need to start mobilizing our own people and telling the story ourselves, and not letting the people, the powers that be, do it for us. And that's kind of like what I was talking about the last show. We need to start having our presence, whether it be militant, whether it be like an intellectual presence everywhere. Like, we need to have these presence, so when people try to tell you that wrong story or try to do that wrong thing to you, someone's like, nah, bruh, like, that's not gonna happen this time. Right. And until we start standing up for ourselves as a collective, there's gonna be a problem. And I think we are becoming it very individualized as a country and as a people. That makes that problem harder and harder and harder because every day we separate a little bit more from our brother, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, with the textbooks,
you have like 10 seconds.
I know. One thing that was being told with the textbooks was, and to a couple people's credit, they just wanted to. They were like, no, we should just push it. They didn't want to get rid of it. They were like, we should just put it off until high school or something, like, which I disagree with. Like, I felt I got a terribly bad picture of what it was. And then in college, I read The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn and the autobiography of Malcolm X, and that opened my eyes. Because I was like, what the hell happened? Yeah, I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, sadly, college opened my eyes too.
And we need to stop protecting our kids in this name of they need to know things. They need to know
things.
History. Like, it's important to teach American history for that reason.
Absolutely. I think while we collectively figure out how we're going to become like the next, I don't know if we're going to be Malcolm X's or Martin Luther King's. Yes, we need to sit down and figure that out. But until then, where can everyone keep in touch with you guys until next week?
That Michael Tima on Twitter. I'll be at Infusion Lounge the next few Saturdays.
Yay.
Up in Universal City Walk at 8 p.m.
Awesome. And
Anthony Martin again. You can follow any of my social medias at Black Fist Activist. That's BLK Fist Activist. I'm out in these streets, man. Like, no, I'm serious. If someone want to come talk to me about this stuff, I love these conversations. Stacey will tell you, I sit down with everybody and I explain my point of view. Let's do it. Let's make a change.
Bam. You're just like this,
Don,
right?
Don, what about you? I told you I'll be perfect. Yeah, we'll talk after. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Don Nash, and you can always reach me on all of my social media outlets. Don Nash on Facebook, Don's Daily Dose on Twitter, and Don Nash on Instagram.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode. I'm Stacey Ike. You can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at One Take Stace, and we will see you next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.